Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the concern expressed in the Tory media today about the threat facing the Conservative Party from the sort of infighting that Nadine Dorries teased in her resignation letter this weekend. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, in discussing Nadine Dorries' resignation yesterday, I noted that her upcoming conspiracy theory book will be an absolute gift to Labour. They can take whole excerpts and use them against Sunak. After all, the book has been written solely for the purpose of destroying Sunak. It will then be for him to persuade the public that the accusations are either untrue or irrelevant. Labour won't mind that. Doing so will cause further blue on blue attacks. And it's not just my opinion, it's an opinion shared by senior Tories quoted in a Daily Express article today. And the Daily Express itself must be taking it seriously because it was on their front page. The problem for Sunak and the wider Conservative Party, I suppose, is that there are so many problems coming up for a party whose factions are barely held together. At the moment, Sunak is trying to be all things to all the different factions, just as Johnson attempted before him. But as I've been saying since the end of 2019, the Conservatives now have an antagonistic balance of power. After the election, it's absolutely possible for the Conservatives to rebalance if they choose to. But right now it seems impossible because you've got like four main groups with some crossover who all desperately need something which is the opposite of their colleagues. The Red Wall, who will be gone, the Red Wall needed public investment. But the Blue Wall would have suffered with a real levelling up programme. They wanted tax cuts instead. In the end, Sunak gave neither of them what they wanted. So now the Red Wall going, well, it's too late to get any investment. So what about culture wars then? But this is also counter to the interests of the Blue Wall. The closer we get to the election date, the more decisions Sunak will have to make. It's all right him at the moment going, oh yeah, we're going to fight the next election on these culture wars. But, you know, he's said so many things in the last few months, he'll change again in a few more months. But at some point, he is going to have to decide what his election strategy is. Like right now, he's doing very little. But he's going to need to present definite policy directions at some point. And when he does, he's going to make one group deeply unhappy, perhaps both. Then there's the traditional wings of the party. The Express are also reporting on the One Nation Tories. I may talk about those more separately in another video. But these are the ones who opposed Brexit. That's my interest in them. Their disdain for Brexit. So they oppose Brexit, albeit badly, obviously. And they will be they'll be the group who get the party back on board with joining again if they can ever reassert control. According to the Express, they're worried about the drift to the far right and want to begin that process of reasserting control of the party sooner rather than later. Obviously, the far right themselves, whose most organised representation would be the ERG, are not at all happy about this prospect and have a history of successfully holding party leaderships to ransom. They're not going to go down quietly. And all of this is a major headache for Sunak, without Nadine Dorries being weeks away from publishing a book which Labour will delight in using against Sunak in PMQs all the way to the election campaign and then throughout the election campaign itself. Should also be remembered, at the end of October, Sunak will have been party leader for a full year and will once again be vulnerable to confidence votes. It will then only take 15% of Tory MPs to write a letter of no confidence to trigger the vote. It doesn't matter that he would win that contest. Doesn't matter that that is pretty much certain. It would badly weaken him. The result, just as with Boris Johnson, would expose the fact that he has fewer than half of all MPs expressing confidence in him. To win the vote, he only needs a majority of Tory MPs. But he's not just the Conservative Party leader. He's the Prime Minister. He is deemed to have the confidence of a majority of MPs. But opposition MPs don't have confidence in him. We can take that as read. So if the number of MPs who oppose him in the confidence vote means that those who support him represents less than half of Parliament, then he doesn't have the confidence of Parliament. Absolutely fatal to the Tories. It would mean they'd go into a general election asking the public to support a leader who's not only demonstrated nothing but failure, but who will not even have the confidence of enough of his own MPs to guarantee legislation passing. And Sunak already has a string of abandoned policies against him because he had to back down to rebels. Labour can point at the fact the reason we're not getting more houses built is because he backed down to his rebels, because he doesn't have the confidence of his MPs. It's just a show, a facade. 53 Tory MPs. As of the end of October, in the last week of October, that's all it takes to fatally wound Sunak. 53 Tory MPs could force a confidence vote in his leadership. It would be self-defeating. It wouldn't help any Conservative faction to do it. As grim as the situation is for them, there is no one waiting in the wings who would be better than Sunak to lead them. It would be an act of madness to trigger a confidence vote. But they will also know that if they're going to do it, they can't wait. They need to do it sooner rather than later because the general election is creeping up on them now. They are running out of time. In the Express, the article quotes a Sunak supporter as saying Dorries turned her resignation into a psychodrama. Oh, this is not quite true, is it? It is true that her resignation letter caused a great deal of fuss, and it's very self-absorbed, yes. But as I said yesterday, the letter read to me like an advertisement campaign for her book. If they thought her letter was a psychodrama, what on earth do they think her book is going to be? Later in the article, Tobias Ellwood attacked Dorries for being self-serving with regards delaying her resignation, and he said he was glad it was all over now. It is, of course, nowhere near over. First, there will be the publication of this book in about a month's time. If it has any suitable ammunition for Labour, it will not take long before they start using it. Then there's the by-election itself. Now, the Conservatives may well retain that seat, in which case they will have dodged the bullet. But this delay has lessened their chances. If Sunak loses it, especially to Labour, but if he loses it, it will be another opportunity for the Conservative Democratic Organisation group to press their attacks against Sunak amongst the general membership. This is far from over. What those trying to put out the Tory civil war fires will be hoping for is that not only do they win mid-Bedfordshire, the by-election, but that Dorries' book generates very few sales and that Labour actually find nothing credible in it to attack Sunak with after all. Various senior Tories in the article are quoted as saying, all this blue-on-blue fighting will hand the keys to number 10 to Keir Starmer. In reality, Rishi Sunak's complete lack of any viable political or economic plan doomed them to that fate. But infighting will certainly make things a lot easier for Labour. I mean, look at the difference between the two parties. When we hear from Labour, it's about policies. Some policies we may like, some we may not like, some are just made up, but it's all about policies. Like the Express and the Mail have recently been posting articles where they've been talking about secret Labour policies. Other media have done the same thing as well, where they present, oh, Labour said this, and you look at it and go, no, they didn't. But it doesn't matter, you know, whether it's making up Labour policies, whether it's Labour policies that actually exist that we like, or Labour policies which exist and we don't like. It's still all about policies. All you hear from Labour is policies. But with the Conservatives, as we gear up for this final year before the general election, the news is as likely to be about failure or dysfunctional behaviour as it is policies. The only Tory-related policy news knocking about in the mainstream media today, do you know what it is? The Home Secretary saying that the police should investigate thefts. Is that it? That's what the Tories have to eclipse all this blue-on-blue action, is it? We think that the police should investigate crimes, you know. As if this is a revolutionary new idea. What, you mean the police don't just exist to arrest people holding blank banners in London? No, they can invest thefts as well. Brilliant. No, I think they're going to have to do better than that if they want to win the ratings war against the psychodrama. And consider the background leading up to this autumn of peril for Sunak. Like I showed you in my stream on Saturday, he has made no headway against Labour at all. There are always ups and downs in poll rates. If you look at like a new poll comes out, oh, Labour gained or Labour lost or something like that. And depending on whether it's gaining or losing, you can think, oh, Labour are doing well or doing badly. But that's a one-off. They go up and down, up and down. It's the trend over time. And across the whole of 2023, the lead has been maintained. You know, it came down, there was a huge lead, a huge poll gap with Liz Truss and the Lettuce Wars. And then that came down by the end of 2023, the end of 2022, that was largely all over. So for the whole of 2023, nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. Whether you look at the ones I say are the good ones, the ones that produce accurate results when you compare them to general election results, YouGov and Ipsos Mori, or whether you look at a poll of polls, it's the same. It's a consistent poll lead of about 20 for the whole of 2023. Sometimes it's a gap of 21, sometimes it's 19. It's about 20. Essentially, Sunak has had a period of relative stability so far this year. Yeah, we've had plenty of drama, but it's actually been a bit of a ceasefire. He moved on from the Liz Truss lettuce wars. He kicked off the new year with this policy programme, his 5 pledges. He got his win with the Windsor framework. There'd been chuntering in his party, but there's no major battles. Opposition to his Windsor framework fizzled out. Boris Johnson and the ERG both tried to oppose it. The ERG could not even get a majority of ERG MPs to oppose it. Even when he did badly in the local elections, there were those who were thinking, right, we can trip him up here. Didn't happen. Failed. The party essentially knew they had to back him. There was no point in a civil war. So if he couldn't make any headway in the polls during this relative period of Tory civil war ceasefire, how on earth is he going to do any better if it all kicks off this autumn? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.